What's up, YouTube? Welcome to the Agroforestry Academy channel. We're super excited today because this is a very special week for us, and we're really glad that you're joining us for this. So we're releasing a series of 3 roundtable talks that we had with some very cool professional people from Ireland, from Florida, and from the Hawaii. So we had these people over for a chat. We talked about very interesting topics of agroforestry, and we're releasing that recording with you now live. We're on the chat to talk with you. So this is a very special moment, and it's a special week because we're releasing our Patreon account. We're launching a Patreon account to further our interaction with you and to provide a means for you to support our work so that we can keep on bringing high quality agroforestry training material for you. Ain't that right?
Yeah, that's it. So this is going to be the very best way you can support us. You know, it's going to come a long way for us. We're going to get some new microphones, new cameras, new angles. And, you know, it's just going to keep us moving, keep on bringing new content for everyone all around the world, you know, all corners, and helping you guys, you know, evolve and you know, work towards harvesting better crops.
That's it. So for you who don't know Patreon is a platform that allows people to support content creators. So we're creating lots of agroforestry content, free content, and this is a way that you can support us. So let me show you our Patreon account. So for you to get acquainted with it, this is our Patreon page. So I'm going to give you a brief explanation of what you get for joining us for $7.90 a month. You're going to get some extra stuff. So first, you're going to get 1 week early access to all of our videos. There's already one waiting for you right now that's not available on YouTube yet. You're going to participate in polls to help us direct the content building of our company. We want to provide the highest quality agroforestry training material and want you to help us serve your best needs. And you're going to get exclusive access to extra material besides the YouTube videos. We're going to be sharing some extra stuff for patrons only. So for example, in this video here, the update on the pineapple system, we are sharing a downloadable sketch of the system to help you understand and apply exactly what we're talking about on your fields. So check it out. You've got the sketch with the spacings, with the population that we're using per hectare for each species, and you've got a series of operations that were done. So we're just giving away extra content to help you with your understanding of agroforestry and what we're talking about. This is all downloadable, easy to follow, and easy to revisit if you want to remember something that we talked about in a specific video. So this is what you're going to get. And besides this, there's a couple of bonuses if you join us until this Sunday, the 2nd of August, up to 11:59 p.m. Brazilian time. That's GMT -3. So first bonus, you're going to get on a draw for a one-on-one coaching session with us. We're giving away a 1-hour coaching for each 20 people who join in. So for each 20 people, that's going to be a 1-hour coaching draw, and you're going to participate in that. Second bonus, you will participate in a series of 3 live webinars that we're going to host discussing important topics of agroforestry. So join us now in our Patreon. There's a link, a button somewhere here around the screen. So just join us now before we jump right into our roundtable talk.
Yeah, so let's get cracking then. Without further ado, let's go into our roundtable chat number 1 with the boys from Florida. That's Matthew REECE from What's Ripening, and also his good friend Joshua Anderson. These guys, man, they're role models to all of us. They're doing a real good job. They're really brave out there. They're going ahead. They're planting with their Mexican sunflowers and their eucalyptus. They're breaking barriers and producing great fruit out in the wonderful land of Florida. So yeah, so without further ado, welcome boys, Matthew REECE and Joshua Anderson. Let's get it on.
All right, so let's start. So first of all, thank you all for coming. Thank you, Joshua and Matthew, for accepting the invite to join us in this conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's going to be great. We should do this more often, actually. You know, this is a first. I hope it's a first of many.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's really nice because, you know, we follow the progress in, you know, the work you guys are doing there. We follow that, and it's just it's great, you know, to interact. And even though we interact a little bit there online and that, so hopefully we can catch up a little bit and exchange more vocally now. And you know, if more people can jump on board and you know, dig what we're doing and dig what you guys are doing, that's great. This is really is give, you know, process. You know, Felipe and I 2 years ago, we started this this project. You know, I gave my car for this project, so I started giving my car. And we're in the process now of, you know, connecting more people and just finding ways that we can keep on contributing, you know. So I think this is a great way for us to be interacting.
So to start us, why don't you two introduce yourselves and tell us a bit about the work that you've been doing? You know, I know Matthew a bit more. Joshua is the first time we're getting to know you. So, but let's start with you, Matthew. Just before we jump right into the theme that we want to talk about today. Tell us a bit about your work. You know, I know you have the you've got this this company that distributes fruit, right? Not only you produce fruit in your farm, but you also, the way I understood, you also gather fruit from local producers and then you distribute them around the states, right? Because I've seen some posts that you made that you ship fruit to anywhere in the states except for California. And right. So tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so that started, I started doing that before I had my own land. So when I first got into permaculture and regenerative agriculture and all this, I had a small home and I had my own plantings at home, but I started to go and seek farms, and I started to join the local fruit clubs, and I got to know a lot of people, and I became kind of a resource for others sourcing fruit. And in that, I found good deals. You know, you find all these different opportunities. And here in Florida, we're a totally unique climate to the rest of the country. So things that we can get here, people everywhere else want. And I've started to figure out how to distribute that out to different places. And so that's how I got started. And then about, 4 or 5 years ago, I was able to acquire my own property, 7 acres here in Southwest Florida, and start to develop that myself. And now I'm in production, mostly with bananas, but also with some passion fruit, some mangoes, and a few other things here and there. And that's kind of one side of my business. The other side of what I do, so that side is called What's Ripening. I have a website, what'sripening.com. You can find me on YouTube, What's Ripening, Instagram, all that kind of stuff. And then I have my other businesses, Peace River Organics. And through that company, I do consultation work, design work for other people that want to start their own farm or homestead or edible landscape or whatever that might be. And so I have kind of 2 different avenues I'm working on. And watching you guys has been super helpful because I really got inspired by that Life in Centropy, you know, YouTube video a while back. And it was just like a huge tease because I couldn't figure out what most of the stuff was. I wasn't familiar with the species. You know, I didn't understand the patterns. And so I've been trying to incorporate that in my own place over the last couple of years. And you guys have been super helpful, just kind of seeing it at different stages and how you're working with it. You know, it's been really helpful to me so far. So I really appreciate you guys. I want to give you guys all the shout out I can.
Cool. Thanks a lot, man. It's yesterday I saw a couple of your last videos, and you talked a lot about the syntropic, your syntropic experiments, and it's things are looking pretty good, man. You already have eucalyptus being pruned, and you know they're resprouting. They already, because I think the last video you said that you had these eucalyptus that had been pruned like 6 weeks ago, and they already had a nice bushy canopy, you know, resprouting. It's looking pretty good, man. And
Yeah, for sure.
you have such a neat system, and I you know, when I look at your systems, I think, what the hell am I doing when my systems are all messy? You've got everything like perfectly organized, and I'm like, yeah, I gotta do stuff a bit more like this, you know. It's very inspiring.
That's how I feel as well. It's just you guys, you're able to do it so neatly. I mean, we've got all this organic matter. It's all so dense. And we're also worried about corridors and you know, walking and access and things like that. But just, you know, everything's so dense then, and sure, it's very healthy, you know, the system as a whole. But you can see that your system is very organized, very clean, very neat. And you can see that your ecosystem is also interacting as a whole already, you know, even though it's out and with the grass, you're working there intelligent with it, you cutting it and feeding it with the grass now. But you can see that, you know, very soon the roots from one tree row is going to be touching the roots from the other tree rows underneath, and it's already all interacting as an organism. So yeah, and it's very inspiring how neat it can be. But it's great. Yeah, inspiring as well.
Cool stuff, man. So Joshua, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself as well? So you're based in Florida as well. Oh yeah, before that, Matthew, which city are you based on?
Okay, yeah, so my town is called Punta Gorda, and I'm on the southwest Florida on the Gulf Coast, and I'm right near a big harbor. I'm just south of a harbor, so I have kind of a microclimate where I'm sitting, but coastal southwest Florida pretty much. All
right, cool. Just to get that on video. So, all right, Joshua, tell us a bit about yourself, man.
All right. I live in Melbourne, which is the southern part of Central Florida on the East Coast. It's a very interesting microclimate also. We're the farthest northern extension of the South Florida agricultural zone. So we can fruit soursop and jackfruit, and we're not so good with ice cream bean. Matt does more ice cream bean than I can. But yeah, I live on a 5-acre permaculture site here. And I kind of split my time between this project and a project up in southern Georgia, where it's right now we're working on 90 acres of a greater 580-acre project. We're doing a lot of olives and mayhaws, and it's like a complete rethinking of their whole grove situation because it's just not done very intelligently. So that's what I'm kind of working on these days. I have projects all throughout the state of Florida at this point. I'm also kind of a fruit hustler in the same way that Matt is, except he does really, really nice, like high quality stuff. And I usually do bulk. I'll sell like 1,000 pounds of mangoes or 2,500 pounds of mangoes at one shot, which is kind of easier for me. And then I also have a consultation and design company called Yield, which stands for Your Intelligent Edible Land Design. And that's more or less what I do.
Nice. These areas where you have the olives, and is it an area that you've planted it from scratch, or is something that you guys are fixing up as you go along?
They planted it before I got there, and now I'm fixing it because they did it like all wrong.
No, yeah, right. So we're filling in and filling in basically.
Yeah, I'm trying to stratify the planting and make it a little bit more of a holistic approach. They're they've been doing it in a very strange way.
I'm sure.
But were they trying to do it like organically in a permaculture way or agroforestry, or were they just doing monoculture?
It was set up in a monoculture fashion, and then the guy who owns it kind of had a coming to light moment, and he wants to convert everything over to organic and sustainable and regenerative. So that's where I came in.
Cool.
And do any of the neighbors feeling inspired by this? Do you think that other people that are doing monocultural, do you think there's an impact in the region?
Yeah, there's one guy who basically ripped out all of his pine, because a lot of people do pine plantations there. And he wants to do like a pecan-based agroforestry system, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, cool. That's cool. I've got a friend of mine who's doing a pecan-based system in Argentina right now as well. I've been chatting a lot to him about it. Pecan is amazing, man. What an amazing plant. I really love it. It's a pity that we can't grow it around here. It's a bit too hot for it.
Yeah, I'm growing really fond of them. The more I get to learn about them and play with them, the more fond I'm getting of them.
Yeah.
What about the jackfruit? You mentioned you were planting some jackfruit. You had some.
Yeah, we have quite a few jackfruit trees on the property in Melbourne. We do a lot of mango. What was that?
Bearing fruit?
Yeah, we have some that are starting to bear fruit, which is pretty cool. Because I love jackfruit. A little bit south of here, I have a project where we planted a bunch of dragon fruit, and that guy has a jackfruit that just produces like 30 or 40 jackfruit at a time, and it's mad.
Nice. I was saying it because with the jackfruit, you know, it's something that feeds, you know, all the life in the forest. It feeds from the microorganisms all the way to the large animals. It's so important. And recently here we've been making pulp, and for the kids, it's like we're having like Jack acai style. You know, we're doing it like thick, you know, with the banana and the shake, and it's feeling like acai, jackfruit, acai style things.
Oh man.
So it's just
Yeah,
great ways of
it's
really
amazing.
nice, man. So I'm just wondering how people are getting around to like how people are like consuming this, you know, like it's obviously very big fruit, and it's a bit clumsy when you open it and then you got to finish it now. So I found a way of, you know, making all the pulp and freezing it, and then really nice way of consuming it, like acai style.
Yeah, I like the
really
seeds too a lot. The seeds are nice.
Oh yeah, cooked and that, yeah. And
yeah.
boiled pressured pan and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, not talking about the wood, which is amazing, right? It's I think you talked about that in your recent video, right, Matthew? You know, you briefly mentioned how the quality of the wood of the jackfruit, and it's just an amazing wood. It's light, it's strong, it's beautiful. You know, it's got that bright yellow color, and here in Brazil, people will pay a lot for an old jackfruit tree. You know, they will take it down to produce tables and all that, and it's but nobody's planting them anymore. You know, you go to these old farms and you find these 150-year-old jackfruit, really big, and they're taking them down, but nobody cares about planting them anymore. So we have to do about that.
There's a really curious story that's happened in Rio de Janeiro, where we have like an urban forest there. It's one of the largest urban forests in the world. And the jackfruit is taken over the forest. It's basically, it's very invasive. And, you know, we've got a lot of people, you know, against the jackfruit, and they've got this operation of bringing it down and eliminating it. But what people have to understand is that if it wasn't for the jackfruit, there wouldn't be a forest there. See, the jackfruit feeds the animals that plants the forest. So, right. Yeah, so people really have to, you know, watch out and be grateful for things that are abundant, you know, and that produces that much quality fruit, feeds so many, and enables forests, you know, to thrive.
Absolutely. Yeah, and here in South, or where I'm at, we're actually trying to select jackfruit for smaller fruit because, as you said, they're so big and it's intimidating for people that aren't familiar with them. So if we can produce smaller size, it's a lot more approachable for you know, a single person or a small family to be able to take that home and use it instead of, you know, just going to waste. So that's another thing we're kind of selecting for is smaller fruit. And then most of the people here in the States really prefer that firmer flesh style. You know, there's like soft ones and firm ones. So we usually lean on the firm side. And we have a few varieties now that you can actually just pull apart and pull the pieces out really easily. And so that's kind of what I'm aiming at. I have a whole collection at my place that I'm some of them are seedlings, some of them are grafted, and I'm trying to select for the best ones that I can recommend for other people and use that way.
Very nice.
Yeah, that's super useful plant. It's amazing. And I haven't used the timber yet. I've only you know, enjoyed the fruit and the seeds. So
do you know there's a fruit that's called, we call it marang here in in Brazil. It's also an Artocarpus. It's Artocarpus odoratissima. It's very similar to jackfruit, but smaller, a bit more of a subtle taste, subtle flavor. Do you guys know it?
Is the fruit more elongated, or is it?
No, it's rounder. It's not so small. It's like this, you know.
Okay.
It's not too big. Like probably not.
I know. I think they can fruit it in Hawaii. I don't know if we can fruit it in Florida. I know of it, but I don't think we can fruit it in Florida.
It's also a great option for, you know, it's more of a fruit to, you know, that it's easier to consume. It's easier to have it at home because it's not so messy as jackfruit. But I like what you're doing, man. You know, trying to select the best varieties. It's a good idea. And then there's another point of jackfruit which is amazing, and that starts. We can start going into the topic that we want to talk about, which is basically just so you understand. You know, we're gonna have 4 videos, right? It's gonna be 4 different topics. Basically, what we wanted is something that, you know, for someone just starting out, someone who wants to do agroforestry, you know, what are the most basic things the person has to do, you know? And we wanted to say, all right, if you do this, this, and that, you're doing agroforestry. Obviously, agroforestry is very, it can be very complex, but, you know, what are the very basic things? And one of them is, you know, cover your soil. That's, you know, very basic principle. You know, we want to cover our soil. And then jackfruit is an amazing plant for producing biomass because it's so prune friendly. It grows pretty fast. And I know Matthew has been trying more and more to be producing more of its biomass on the spot, right? Because I know you use lots of wood chips. I imagine you can get from your city, from, you know, somewhere close. But also you're experimenting with, you know, finding the most efficient trees to produce the biomass so that you can cover your soil with whatever you're producing on the spot, right? And jackfruit is one of the most amazing plants. You know, out of the fruit trees, my preferred ones are jackfruit and mangoes for producing organic matter because they're just so vigorous, you know. So do you guys have you had the opportunity to, did you have, you know, already adult jackfruits that you've been pruning regularly?
The ones that I have are less than 5 years old, and I've been pruning them, but it hasn't been, you know, biomass production style. I do have some mangoes that easily mulch themselves just by the pruning. And that they actually do that quicker. I found for me, they do that quicker than the jackfruit. The issue that I have here with jackfruit is that because we have such a long dry season and I don't have irrigation on most of my plantings, that they really just stop and they wait until it rains again. So they're not really pumping the material like they could if I had irrigation. So that's one of the limitations I've had with them. But man, when they go, they really do go.
Yeah, they can go insane. But it's
I wanted to ask you guys how do you think people are taking this idea of you know, using the eucalyptus to produce the biomass? You know, it's so much, it's so scary, isn't it? It's such a myth around the eucalyptus, and you know,
there's so much hate around eucalyptus.
Yeah, and I was really glad to see you planting the eucalyptus there, Matthew, because I've seen a lot of people, you know, try get into the consortium, agroforestry, worry about the strata, but they're still kind of like afraid to take that step, the eucalyptus step, you know. Obviously, it's not anywhere in the world you can plant it, so in certain cases, but most places in the world, eucalyptus is still one of the strongest ally, really. You know, one of the mothers of the forest. And, you know, very quickly, it's amazing when you're in your second year of your eucalyptus, then you start seeing how much material it actually produces. And really, I mean, with my 4-year-old systems, it's just eucalyptus, feeding and feeding and feeding. And it's just down to how much labor you have, because if you have enough labor, you can cut it every 45 days. You know, we rarely can make the most of it. So how do you guys feel, personally, how do you guys feel about it initially? And how do you see other people, you know, that, you know, when you introduce it to them, what kind of reaction people have out there?
So I have plenty to say, but I want to give Josh an opportunity if he wants to answer first. I don't want to take over.
All right. I definitely noticed there's an educational aspect to it where you kind of have to keep hammering the topic until they're willing to accept it. Because I work with a lot of what people refer to as invasive species, and it's just people are they're so fearful of that word invasive, and they kind of apply that to allelopathy of the eucalyptus, which in a balanced system isn't really a thing, in my opinion. So for me, I've definitely, especially on the larger scale project, they're definitely quite afraid of it, and I just kind of keep hammering at it. Honestly, you just kind of annoy them until they accept it.
All right. So eventually, you think you can talk people into it. You can convince people to trust you and do it.
People don't, at least in my experience, people don't necessarily believe until they see. So they have to see results, and then they're willing to dive in. So you kind of do small scale experiments, and then they see the results of them, and then they dive in.
You can also show them our channel, and they can see.
Yeah, exactly.
Experience here.
Yeah, that's why it's so important to demonstrate, and you know, when you see it, you believe it. You know, but it's hard to talk about. It's hard to, show one video. It's really, when people see it, and especially like that's part of the purpose of my project is, and why it looks neat, is because I'm making an effort. Because it's supposed to be a demonstration. So when I have new clients, I always invite them to my farm. I'm trying to show them what it could be so they can understand what it is and how to use it. For me, eucalyptus, when I first started talking about it, all the feedback I got was horror stories of, oh, I had some eucalyptus on my farm. They were humongous. It cost me a lot of money to cut them down. They sucked up all the nutrients out of the soil. Recently, we were out in farm country near here, and they used this eucalyptus for windbreak, and the ranchers were telling us, oh, I hate those trees because the branches always fall off and they're in the way. And it's basically, it always goes back to the management. And if they're not managed, just like pretty much anything, if you don't manage it, or if you don't take its attributes into account, it can definitely get away from you. So really demonstrating that management practice is the most important. And that's one of the things that I was really concerned with when I first planted mine, and why I planted them further apart is because I didn't know what to do. I couldn't find the information. How soon are you raising the skirt? How high do you cut it? How often? Uh-oh. I think I just got kicked out of the meeting. Can you guys still hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was an update there, I think,
But now, like even yesterday, I had some clients come to my farm, and the guy that came in, he goes, oh, you're using eucalyptus. And it was the first person I had that even recognized it that came to the farm. And he said something like, I just saw that on YouTube somewhere. I can't believe you have it here. And, it's already showing. And that demonstration is so key. So that's why I'm going to keep trying to talk about it on YouTube. I saw you guys just posted your video. I was super excited to see that. Because we just don't have the information. And just to be clear, for us, or at least for me, I've only used one species of eucalyptus, and it's actually, the one we have is Corymbia torrelliana, so it's technically not eucalyptus anymore. I'm sure there's other ones that we could be using. And then there's a couple of analogs to that. There's one that I'm interested in now called the silky oak. I don't know if you guys have used that one very much, but I'm going to be experimenting.
I've never heard of it. Do you know the scientific name?
I could look it up while someone else is talking. But it's a agroforestry tree from Australia, and it's supposedly a really good timber crop. And I've seen in Africa where they were using it the same way as the eucalyptus. They bring up the skirt, they top it, and it was
Grevillea. It's Grevillea.
Grevillea robusta.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's an amazing plant. I was recommending it to someone yesterday. Grevillea is amazing. So it's called silky oak over there. We use it a bit in colder regions here in Brazil. And people use it a lot for as a shading tree for coffee.
Right.
So it's an amazing plant. It's an amazing plant.
Yeah,
So
we get a lot of questions about varieties and that. And I think it's great out in the US. You guys can probably source it, and things can get shipped. But here we kind of use what we have. You see, we use what the local industry's been using. We walk in there. Usually there's like 2 or 3 options, and you're like, all right, one's harder wood, and the other one's faster growing, and you like that one or that one. So really, I mean, what we say, for you that you're in your region, you can use what you have. Obviously there's certain ones that are better for different regions, and there's certain types that have that extra smell, even more potent smell, and we just recommend when that's really high dense, you can actually repel a little bit insect, so it can repel a little bit of the life. So we if you have the option, we don't go for the strongest smelling ones, even though they all smell really nice. So it's one of those things there as well.
Yeah, the amazing thing about eucalyptus is that there are over 600 species of eucalyptus, and I actually think that you find one for any part of the world, really any part of the world. Maybe not, in Antarctica or something like that. In the Arctic regions, but anywhere from temperate zones to the tropical regions, mountain, dry land, swamps, you're gonna find eucalyptus for all sorts of different situations. And I remember talking to this friend of mine. He was participating in one of our courses here, and he lived in Australia for a couple of years. And I asked him, so what's the roughest place you've seen an eucalyptus plant? And he's like, I was in the middle of the desert. There was nothing around. There was one eucalyptus tree, and that was the only thing that was in the middle of the desert. That was the plant. I say, yeah, there you go. That's the plant, man. That's what you need to look for. And yeah, there's this talk about invasive species. I always like to say these are the best species. These are the ones that we want. We want the invasive species because they're the ones that they're invasive for a reason. They're invasive because they're able to make the best use of the resources available at those specific conditions that are the current conditions of our field. So by learning how to manage them, use them as biomass producers, use them as plants that are going to be optimizing the photosynthesis level of your field, and just learn to use them, and they're going to become your best allies. I always say go for the invasive species. The more invasive, the better. But learn to work with them, because if you lose control over them, then they're going to give you a big trouble. And it's always a matter of the timing, right? I like to hammer on a lot about the timing of managing the species, because if you prune an eucalyptus tree like once a year or twice a year, I usually recommend twice a year, it's always going to be a quick operation, and you're going to be producing organic material constantly. But if you allow it, if you go for 2, 3, or 4 years without pruning, it's going to become a monster. And then it's going to be such a huge mess when you do prune it. And it's the same thing with all of the other invasive species that we use for biomass production. For example, the Mexican sunflower. I know that Matthew uses a lot. I absolutely love it as well. If you allow it to seed, it's going to take over your whole property. But if you're pruning it every 30 days, as you should, it's never going to happen, and it's going to be your best ally. So yep. It's because it's plants that have a great capacity of work, and they can work for you or they can work against you. It depends on how you manage them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's very, in Matthew's plot, it's very well organized, isn't it? I remember with our first times I met Ernest, he was teaching us to plant the Mexican sunflowers, the tree beds. And it seems crazy that you plant it in line, in a row, with your trees. And yeah, we do it here, and how you've done it there, Matthew, and you can see you've managed it. You keep it there, from what we see there, it doesn't ever reach like over 2 meter high, you know, if you keep it the green shoots. And as long as, you know, as you layering it down in big, you know, in big bunches, it's resprouting ability is not what people make it out to be. It's not that vigorous in a resprout from a stalk just laying on top of other mulch material. You know, really it needs, like, it does want to pretend it's going to resprout, but it's not vigorous like that. So if you're managing it, you know, and you don't let it seed, it's not that dangerous. But obviously you need to do it to believe it. And it's the same thing, you know, with the elephant grass. You know, you guys trying it out there. I wouldn't be that worried about it. You know, the elephant grass, it's not that dangerous. It's not a case where it's fallen over and then it's already a big problem where it's resprouting, and especially if we're doing like you plan to do there with the meter and a half cut max. It doesn't even grow the eyes, you know, just leaf material, you know. So if you've got it organized and then yeah, you get the timing right, it's really, you're not in hot waters there. It is quite safe. And with I mean, I'm a lot more worried with say the elephant grass to steal from the system energy, rather than worried of it resprouting and you know, sprouting everywhere. Because see, where I've horses, and I'm always very tempted to harvest it for the horses rather than giving it back. And then I see a negative impact on the system because I am stealing from the system.
Right,
So
right.
it's dangerous once you want to explore. I'm exploring it. I'm stealing from the system for external use. It pays for me because if I'm not stealing it from there, I have to buy hay. So it's a crop. I'm harvesting it. But then, you know, I've got to have something else to feed him then. So that's when I get the pigeon peas to feed my elephant grass so that I can steal the elephant grass for the horses.
You can always give back the horse's shit as well, right? So
yeah, it's not local.
It's a fair exchange.
Yeah, that in theory is the perfect option, and we go around about twice a year. We can bring it back, but it's not on the spot, you know, coverage. It's not. I have to. It's that labor to go get the horse shit and bring it back and. But that is the perfect exchange, and we do it a couple of times a year. But recently, I've been planting the pigeon peas to feed my elephant grass so that I can steal elephant grass from the system. But you know, I'm just thinking, if all the elephant grass I gave back to this bed, I mean, I would see so much mulch, and I'll just see pure health and pure boom. A little something there.
That's a lot of stealing going on in your property, man.
Yeah. I've been learning and giving back now with the pigeon peas.
So what do you guys think? Because also one thing that I think lots of people have already accepted, and I don't think anybody questions, you know, the idea that you should mulch your systems, you know, you should have organic matter covering the soil. But I feel like there's still a lot to be talked about, you know, green coverage of the soil, you know, having, you know, plants all around, you know, so that you have, you know, as much as you can green plants in your system throughout the whole year, and that has all sorts of positive impacts on your system, you know. So what do you guys think about that? Have you been working that also in your systems, in your, you know, with your clients? Tell us a bit about that, and what do you think of it? You know, the benefits that this brings to the system, you know, to have more densely planted systems, to have, you know, that nice, you know, everything green instead of you know, plants spaced apart and all that brown coverage around.
Josh, you want to go first?
Sure. So one thing I'm working on a lot right now in the bigger project is actually just having green material all year round. And so I'm working a lot with perennial and annual cover crops in the form of, we can't necessarily do elephant grass there because we get a little bit too cold, but we're doing like a Sudan sorghum cross that's proving to be quite vigorous, and you can get quite a few cuts on it before it gets too cold. And then Sesbania exaltata is one that I'm growing more and more fond of as a
Sesbania?
Yeah, Sesbania
Right.
exaltata. It's also called a coffee weed, I think. It can get like 8 to 10 feet, or like I think that's 1.5 to 2 meters in that range. A little bit taller, and it's proving to really handle, especially if you have a situation of wet feet. I'm quite fond of the way that's performed. And then I'm really keen on all clumping grasses right now, especially in Georgia, because we need them, because there's so much erosion there.
Which grass did you say?
Just clumping grasses in general. Right now, I haven't quite figured out the exact ones we're going to use on scale, but where they're growing, they're stabilizing slopes, which is really important because we have these huge erosion gullies in the olive grove that we're working on getting rid of.
How cold does it get there? I don't know the region.
It can get in Celsius like probably a little bit below 0.
Just a little bit. All right.
Yeah. So I'm working slightly. I'm not in the subtropics anymore there. So there's certain things that I'm reworking and learning.
All right.
I'd love to be able to do elephant grass because it just is it's a champion in my book.
Yeah, it's it's impressive. It's an impressive biomass production. One plant that I like a lot, especially for dry climates, is the prickly pear. Right. It's you know, in my city here where I am, we can have years of 1,000. Like I was telling you guys before we started the video, I can have years where I have like 800 millimeters of rain. I can have years of 1,600. I can have years of 100 millimeters of rain. So, because we're really bordering the semi-arid of Brazil, and the prickly pear is amazing because it can produce 400 tons of material per year, which is quite a lot, and most of that is water. What?
Is that on a hectare, or how's that?
On a hectare. A hectare is 2.5 acres, I think. Just we're gonna have to keep doing this this bounce of units, just so we make sure everybody understands in any part of the world. And so it's a lot of material. It takes a while to establish itself. So once it's adult, that can take from 1 to 2 years, depending on the other plants you have around. It's a lot of material, and it's green throughout the whole year. It doesn't matter what happens in the weather, and it does withstand some cold. There's a lot of prickly pear around the Mediterranean, so subtropical, this Mediterranean climate is pretty good for it as well. It's also an interesting plant to be using in drier areas, for having these green covers and to chop it up and lay it on the ground.
Yeah, there's so much water, isn't it? So you can.
Yeah, it's like 90% water.
It's great for harvesting in the drought. We're looking for things that you can harvest in the drought, green, coverage, and in my case also for the animal feed. Always the animal feed, and I've been influenced by Felipe, and we've introduced prickly pears, and I'm hoping that we can something that we can be harvesting for the animals in the drought, green. Great, yeah.
Do you think you could run a forage harvester over prickly pear?
I think you could. You just have to see about the spacing and exactly what sort of harvester. But I think, for example, a maize harvester would work for prickly pear.
All right.
I think.
I'd like to give that a shot.
Actually, not. I don't think it's a maize harvester, but a silage harvester. I don't know how to call it.
Yeah, silage harvester is another. It's also a forage harvester.
Yeah, exactly. Of course. Yeah. All right. That's it. I think it could work. You could try it. I've been thinking of, ways to adapt, machinery in order to make the cutting of the prickly pear easier, because it also has the problem of re-sprouting. Every little bit will re-sprout. One thing that I've been thinking about is, those hedge trimmers.
Yeah.
They're kind of like a chainsaw, but with a longer and
Yeah.
tooth blade. If you had one of those, but with like 4 blades, and then you could just, go around and it would just like shred the prickly pear to pieces and just let it fall on the ground. I think that would be a pretty cool implement for using it on prickly pear. So I hope we can do that someday.
They have them, they're called sickle bars, and it's got the teeth that kind of go like that. But you're saying having them stacked on top of each other?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Cutting more pieces? Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Exactly. That's it. That would be awesome, because then it would all fall to pieces and, you have the cover in the soil. Cool. So Matthew, now talk a bit about it. You didn't get your chance to speak about this, the idea of having the green in your system, apart from the mulch, of course.
Yeah, it's a question I'm still wrestling with now. Most of the work that I've done over the last few years has been on what I consider small acreage. So it would be like less than 5 acres. And a lot of them have been less than 1 acre, homestead, smaller systems. And the trend here in Florida, at least, is to keep your trees pruned down pretty small. And so most people are, at least what I've seen so far, most people are a little nervous to have too much growth up into their tree when they have their fruit sitting down low. And if you look in some of my videos, you'll see my mangoes, some of them are touching the ground. And so that's been something for me to figure out how to incorporate vegetation that's not negatively affecting, maybe it's making it too humid and causing issues with my fruit set and stuff like that. So the trend that I see, first of all, most people, if you're into permaculture, and in our area, we're trying to use low growing nitrogen fixing ground covers. And we have basically 2 that are perennial. We have the sunshine mimosa, which is mimosa, I think it's strigolosa. It's got a little purple flower. It grows really short. It's not very powerful in my opinion, but it does a good job. It'll cover the ground. And then we have the perennial peanut, another really low growing. It's used commonly in medians. For me, it's been hard to really get that to establish very well. I've tried to play with it a little bit. What I've been using more, if it's a new planting, is I'll use sweet potato the first year, because it just carpets everything out and it looks nice and you get a harvest. And then I have a few other kind of perennial vegetable style things that I'm using. And then we have a native weed called Wedelia that seems to want to take over and occupy that space on its own. So in some areas I'm letting it happen. In some areas I'm trying to control it. It kind of depends on I guess the use of the property, what you're trying to do with it. And then now I'm experimenting with the sun hemp, the millet, and different things like that, and trying to use that inner space, grow it up, and then put it out of the tree rows. That's something I was inspired by some of y'all's work on. And then I have other areas like I have at my house here where I've kind of let it go. I've seeded in a lot of things over the years, and I have a few things that kind of grow into that mid-range. I'd say maybe, less than 1 meter would be their max height. And so they occupy that space, and then I cut them all down and use them around the trees. And that seems to work really well. The thing that I'm trying to figure out now is, and you guys talk about it too, is if you have a main species crop, the management's kind of much more simplified. If you have an avocado and a mango and a lychee and 9 other trees, it becomes really complicated and kind of irritating to figure out, when to cut what and how and where. And so I've started to systemize a lot more, and that's what I'm trying to get into now. But the ground cover, honestly, I'm still struggling with it, trying to figure out the best species. I like the idea of the prickly pear. We grow it here, but it's not really used in any like real service capacity. It's just a novelty, and some people cook it a little bit, but it's not used that way. So it's an interesting thought to use something like that.
Yeah, and you said you get a bit of a swampy soil every now and then, doesn't, waterlogged. Yeah, that kills the prickly pear.
Another aspect for me, and that's why I've done a couple of videos about biomass plants that I've noticed that work for me, like the canna lily and certain types of useful or ornamental ginger type plants that do grow just tons of material. And I don't know anyone else that actually uses them for mulch, but I use them for mulch now, and because they grow really well for me in the summer. I can cut them 2 or 3 times, and I still have something I can use at the end of the year if I want to harvest it.
Cool. Have you ever tried turmeric?
Yeah, I grow a lot of turmeric. Absolutely. Yeah,
I love turmeric. To be that low layer, that understory under everything. It can get pretty big. I've had turmeric that growing up to 1.5 meters. So that it would start touching your mango's bottom branches. But if you can keep on cutting it forever, it doesn't just cut it back. It should work fine as well. That's one thing also. That's one of the qualities that I look for in most service plants. It's the, I should call it I don't know if that word exists, but the manageability. Can you manage? Is it manageable? Because it needs to be manageable. There are many plants that they are not manageable. There are many plants that they are very efficient. They produce lots of biomass. They would be wonderful, but they're really hard to manage. And these usually are the weeds that I like to eliminate from the field. And you mentioned something interesting, which I think is the core idea behind the necessity to have a densely populated system, which is there is some plant that's going to try to take up that space, because that's how nature goes, right? Nature is trying to make everything more efficient, to absorb as much sunlight as it can. So it's going to be, there's going to be weeds sprouting out everywhere, unless we take up the responsibility, to take care of that space ourselves, and we use something. So I like the idea of, choosing your weeds. We got to choose our weeds. The weeds are going to come up. We can choose them, and by looking for efficient weeds that are manageable, that we can be cutting back, or that, because there are some weeds, depending on the climate, that they're going to be managed by the climate itself. So for example, some annual grasses, especially in colder regions, there are grasses that they're just going to grow, flower, and die, and that's it. In tropical regions, that's a bit more rare. Most grasses, they just grow on and on and on forever. And so that's a trait I look for a lot in plants. And also there are these plants, what's the name of that plant that you mentioned that's been taken over a small plot in your area? That's a local weed.
It's also known as Singapore daisy. It's a low growing, kind of sprawling. It's got little yellow flowers. Really likes wet areas. Usually it usually starts along a fence line. A bird probably dropped a piece or something, and then it just takes off and spreads everywhere around here. I don't know if John knows the Latin name or not, but
in my opinion, it's a glorious plant. I love Wedelia.
It's funny. It is, and it's actually an attractive plant. It does look nice. The only issue that I have with it is that when it's there, it's really hard for me to pull it apart and put something else if I want to plant something. So it kind of depends on how you're trying to manage that area. But I do have people, especially people that are like, market gardeners, organic gardeners, and they come to my place and they're like, no, when they see Wedelia, it's like the bane of their existence, But that's also the difference between a tree crop system and an annual vegetable system. So they have their own place. You can love them or you can hate them. Depends on what you're doing.
I appreciate it's going to be easily manageable, and I appreciate how you say your system is a model for other homesteads, and so it's got to also be ornamental, and it's got to be also in a way where it's easy to manage or systematically simplified for tree crops and your main crop. So yeah, so I can appreciate all of that, and definitely for it to have a main crop, to simplify it and have it systematically, and really, you know, certain grasses that, you know, give you a little bit of trouble, you can avoid those. For me, a personal favorite in the last year here has been the jack beans. Jack beans is something that I'm using everywhere now. And, you know, it's so great to look after the seedlings. It's just so nice where I plant a seedling and I put 2 jack beans right next to, you know, north and south, just boom, 2 jack beans for every seedling. And then you can go away and you just know that's going to be looked after. You know, it's got to weather the storm. That's got to, you know, all wind, sun, everything that the weather's got to throw. I don't know about the hurricanes out there, but anything that the weather throws at us, you know, these jack beans, it's a nice greenhouse. And it's great because it's great when you can harvest those service plants as well. It's like the sweet potatoes. I love the sweet potatoes for initial, you know, coverage of the soil, because like I said, you harvest the potatoes, and people in the homestead, they're going to want that. And it produces so much organic material when you open it up and you want to introduce something else in the area. But the jack beans, I found as well that it is a cash crop, because other organic producers and other people that are into, you know, agroecology, and, you know, more people want to buy jack beans, and you can sell it out here $16 a kilo, Brazilian bucks. But if you put into relation, that's
$4 like $3-4 a kilo. It's more expensive than regular beans, you know, so it's
exactly, I was going to say,
and easier to grow.
Easier to grow. They produce fatter, you know, heavier fruit. It's more expensive, and then regular beans that you got to sell to eat. So it's like, it is a cash crop actually. So if you have,
I'm sorry, I've heard that it's not edible, or you have to do something to make it edible. You guys use it regularly, so what is the common method to use that?
No, we don't use it to eat.
Oh, you don't use it to eat. Okay.
yeah, it's a cash crop
but
where you
look,
sell it to other people.
No, we sell it to other people as a cover crop. But of the edibility of it, I've known people who eat it. I mean, look, I work in Mozambique, right, with this Italian organization, and, you know, it's a very poor country. People sometimes they don't have what to eat, so you find out all sorts of things that they eat, and they eat black velvet beans. And black velvet beans is just something that, you know, I'd never consider eating. They go through this, you know, 5-hour-long cooking process. They have to change the water like 10 times or something, but they eat it.
Yeah.
They eat it.
Wow.
Yeah, apparently there is a process to make the jack beans edible. It's one of those processes. I've looked it up, but, you know, I don't know it anymore. But yeah, so we sell it so other people can plant it as cover crops.
But there is the jack bean is it's a Canavalia, right? The scientific name. It's Canavalia ensiformis. There is another one which I think it's Canavalia rosea, which is called the sword bean. Do you know that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it produces this huge bean, this huge pod, and it's got pink seeds. It's like a jack bean but bigger, and it's so apparently they cook the pods, the green pods. I've never tried it out, but it's also an interesting plant. And it's not bushy as the jack bean. It climbs. It's pretty vigorous, a vigorous climber. There are many other Canavalias which are interested to explore. There's one which I like very much, which is basically, it probably exists in the coasts, you know, in the beaches of Florida, because I see it everywhere in the tropical regions, in the tropical beaches, which is Canavalia brasiliensis. It's not bushy. It's like a very, what do you call it? It's a crawling vine, right? It's got a bit of thicker leaves, and the seeds are brownish. Yeah, kind of. So that's
the leaves are kind of succulent.
What?
Sorry, I'm interrupting you. I was saying, are the leaves really shiny and kind of succulent, like thick?
Yeah. They're not succulent. They're pretty rough, I'd say. And they're like trifoliate. They're pretty much jack beans, but you can see that they crawl instead of being bushy, and they grow specifically in the sand. So for really poor soil, I think it's also an interesting. It's just other variety of jack beans.
Another great beans that people are very scared to use, the mokuna. I don't know the scientific name.
The black velvet beans.
All right, there you go. So I mean, once I've learned to use it, I've learned to work with it. It's like it's one of those dangerous things, but if you learn to work with it, it's so amazing. So one way we've been working with it is in corridors. So say you got your grass corridor, you plant it in a couple of lines in the center, away from the trees. And if you can plant it there, and you systematically plant it there, you know that you've planted it every meter. Plant a couple of seeds every meter, and if you systematically know where the root is, it's easy for you to come back and clip it, because every meter I'll go there with the scissors, clip it. So it's easy, it won't get out of control as long as you don't let it flower. So when you see the pods all getting green and before they ripen, go to the right in the root and clip it. If you systematically plant it, you know where you can systematically come and remove it. And you collect all that material and onto the tree rows. And I was really scared as well using it, and Felipe got me into it. Yeah, successful out here as well. Nice.
I just planted like a half a hectare of black velvet bean.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. But just pure black velvet beans, or do you
let it seed in?
I pretty much just broadcasted with a seeder.
Cool.
And how do you plan to manage that? How are you gonna harvest that?
We have a flail mower on a BCS, a 2-wheel walk behind tractor that has a PTO. So before the seeds are mature, I'm just gonna flail mow it, and then it's essentially power composting is what they call it.
All right, integrating it in the soil.
Yeah, it's not like tilling it in. It just breaks it down into really, really small pieces and leaves it on the ground.
What's the name of that implement you said? Flail mower?
Flail mower.
Yeah, it's like this way and chops it up.
Oh, all right.
Nice. And it hooks up to a BCS, which is a 2-wheel walk behind tractor made in Italy.
All right, cool.
Sounds like a Ferrari.
Yeah.
Sounds like a Ferrari. Definitely. Yeah, that's good. This is something that here in Brazil we have a bit. It's a bit harder for us, to get decent small machinery at affordable prices. We still lag behind in terms of technology for small farmers. This is something that we have actually a lot of technology for big farmers, but really small farmers, it's a very, very, we lag behind a lot. Implements and all that. But luckily, we're very resourceful people. So, you can go, to the corner. If you find somebody who works with iron, he's going to adapt this machinery for you. And we can find our way around things. But it's good to see the sort of machinery that you have there. So, black velvet beans is definitely one of my favorites. It's just, it's unbelievable what it does. It produces so much organic material, and if it's got something to climb on, it just becomes a monster, man. It's really impressive, and it's also one of those that the seeds are very valuable. It's the same price as the jack bean, and one plant can produce. If you have like one, common beans plant is going to produce like 50 grams of beans or 100 grams of bean. One black velvet bean is going to produce 2 kilos of beans. So it's like you can get like 30 reais per plant if you have where to sell it, and if you have a proper way to harvest it. This is actually a pretty interesting topic that you touched on. The possibility of monetizing your cover crops. It's something that people don't really think about very much, and I think it's actually something that's worth being more. We should be thinking about this a lot more, because it's something of value. It's something that's not easy to find. For example, in Brasilia, where Gennaro lives, there's only one store, there's one shop, there's this one guy who would sell pigeon pea seeds, jack bean seed, black velvet bean seed. And he decided he's out of, I called him the other day because I wanted to buy some jack beans, and he said he's not selling them anymore.
He's out of business, man. You gotta call me now.
Businessman. All right, man. Next time I'll call you.
That's what I'm saying.
This is something that people are looking for, and more as more people get into organic and into agroforestry, there is going to be a demand for these crops, and there's not enough available. I can tell you that. There's something to be thought about. Cover crop seeds. We can monetize them, so they can work for you twice. They're improving your soil, improving your system, and giving you money. That's how good does it get?
I clearly saw that I had to spend $300 to get a first batch in, and then you see how much it produces, and I've got it available basically for the market now.
Yeah, my first kit I think came from India. When I ordered it had a little India sticker on it. I was like, wow, okay, that's a well-traveled seed there.
Nice.
Just the other day, I had to order bulk pigeon pea seed, a very specific variety from the University of Georgia. It cost me $150 US for 50 pounds of seed.
50 pounds?
Yeah.
That's like $3 a pound.
Yeah, it was really, really, really expensive.
So I have a question about that, the velvet bean. You guys are making me feel a little more brave about using it because I haven't used it before. If you've seen some of my recent videos, I have those grass corridors between my tree lines, and I'm using them. I'm building up the grass, and I'm going to be cutting it. If I wanted to put the velvet bean maybe down the middle, or maybe 2 or 3 rows down the middle, would I need to break up the soil to put the seed in, or is it powerful enough to just grow up and sit on top of the grass?
It's powerful enough, man. It's the most powerful thing
like Gennaro said, and just go with it, huh?
Yeah, with a machete, with a knife, you just dig it in, open it, and just that little space.
Okay.
Maybe the time of year, there's a best time of year. I don't know if Felipe will fill us in on this, because
it's spring and summer, so you're going into summer now. You still have a bit of well, actually you have rain now in the summer, right? So you can just plant it, like Gennaro said, with a machete or with one of those manual planters. I don't know if you have them. We call them, I don't know how to call those in English. Let me figure it out.
Meanwhile,
how do you call them in Portuguese? I forgot. Yeah, go on, tell about your experience.
I had an experience recently where I planted it, and very quickly it flowered. It didn't give it time to grow enough mass, to make the most of it. So yeah, it was beneficial, but it wasn't enough, because I was actually using it to kill off a grass, and I don't want to let it seed either. So I really needed it to cover it and really boom to kill off this grass in this corridor. But it flowered because at the time of the year there wasn't enough time for it to grow to its maximum potential before it flowered. So that's something as well to consider.
Yeah, but I think, because I was there when we planted, right? I think it was almost fall when we planted. It was March or something, wasn't it? I think. Yeah. And right now it's the beginning of summer for them, so it's like it's as if it was January for us. December, January. It would be better if to plant it maybe
a little bit earlier.
Yeah, but still, there's still time. Also, your crops, you've got millets and sun hemp, right, in the corridors, if I remember correctly from your videos.
Yep.
How big are they? Are they like already this big, or just?
Yeah, they're only a week and a half old right now.
Yeah, I think you could experiment with it. Black velvet beans are powerful enough that they're going to take longer to develop, because you already have a bit of a vegetation there. But once they manage to climb out of the grassy vegetation, they're just going to start crawling all over the place. Another thing which is interesting, you've got those eucalyptus that are pruned. You can plant like one seed in each eucalyptus, to allow it to climb. That's also an interesting thing. And And then when you prune your eucalyptus, you're just going to end up cutting it again, you know, just to produce a bit more of biomass. It's going to fix some nitrogen. And that's the best, you know, if you want to produce your own seeds, for example, that's the best way to do it. You know, just plant it in a eucalyptus tree and just let it, you know, thrive, and it's going to produce this huge, you know, chunks of pods, because it just produces a lot more. You know, the taller it gets, the more seeds it produces. So it's
That's cool. I did that with yams last year. I grew the yams up the eucalyptus, and I have a little bit of passion fruit that creeped over from another tree that's going along now.
cool.
That's a good trellis.
Good stuff. Yeah, I love yams, man. Yams are also an amazing crop. People eat lots of yams around here. Here in Brazil, we have a bit of a main problem with yams, because you know, we have yams and you have taro, right? And in some regions of Brazil, people call yams nyami, and in some regions of Brazil, people call taro nyami. So you know, it's a huge mess around here. But right, we're talking about yams, the climbing one. Absolutely love yams. Absolutely love taro as well. It's also, I put it in the same category as you know, ginger and turmeric, as one of those plants that withstands a bit of shade. You know, that you can have you know, in the bottom of your tree rows. It's also an interesting. Once you have
crop.
Exactly, and it's interesting to think about this, because we were talking about, you know, having these crops that are going to be covering, you know, maintaining everything green. And it's interesting to think about how this can change over time, because, you know, when you're starting out, you've got a bit of a poor soil. You're going to need to look for those invasive species, those that can grow in that, you know, in that plot. But, you know, as you have more organic matter, as you accumulate more nutrients, you can actually shift to more abundant weeds, let's say. So, you know, I never forget how Ernest would say something, you know, talking about a banana. Look at what a beautiful weed this plant is. You know, it's a banana plant. But, you know, once you have a rich enough soil, it becomes a weed. You know, taro can become a weed. Everything can become a weed, as long as you have the proper conditions for them to thrive. Because basically, a weed is just anything that will grow spontaneously on the place. So it can get, you know, to that point.
That, I mean, we almost left out unfairly the banana, you know, as a cover crop, as a mulching crop. I know it, you know, works with it and everything, but it's a bit unfair not even to mention it. And yeah, it's the other mother for us here. The eucalyptus and the bananas are the two mothers. They're the first that can give us the amount of material, the amount of matter, and such a blessed. So I mean, we're actually planting it in high density, where every other banana is for fruit, and every other banana is just literally for cuttings. And I've noticed that even cutting down bananas and cutting them down again and harvesting the fruit third time round, really brave. I find it, but you know, I'm finding it like, you know, it matures and it ends up you producing you better crops incredibly, even though we know, you know, you spoke about this in your last video, and it's absolutely true, that it's a kind of crop where after 3 years, you know, on your third harvest, you kind of like want to say goodbye to it and plant it new, and then use that there just for mulching, you know. And I'm absolutely with that. But if you're cutting it as well, first time around and second time around, it doesn't take a year for you to cut it. You can cut it within, you know, 6 months, and then you cut it again within the next 2.5, 3 months, because it's so booming. And then, you know, then you can cut it twice and still harvest it with 18 months basically, because, you know, it's going to be more mature, and then that third time round it's going to come quicker. So in certain areas we've been using bananas and cutting them down even before the fruit, like I said, twice, and still harvesting fruit 18 months, you know, the day we've planted it. And yeah, what a great material to mulch with, isn't it?
Yeah, and then for here, you want to talk about an economic cover crop. That one's been a big driver for me, because yes, I sell the fruit, but I also because I have a collection of bananas, I have them organized and I know what they are. I have quite a few different types. I can harvest those pups and sell them for a good price because I know what they are. And there's a lot of people getting into bananas because it's one of your first fruits, right? When you start your new system, it's one of your first production. And so economics wise, you guys talked about, you know, harvesting your seed and selling it as cover crop. Man, the bananas is, first of all, they're not that hard to get the pups off if you do them at the right time. And everybody wants them. Everybody wants to grow bananas. Who doesn't like them, you know?
And you post them off, no problem. You put them into boxes and wrap them up. What's that process like?
So the way I do it, and it's even easier the way you guys plant yours. But when I harvest the pup, you know, you have the corm at the base. I prune off all the roots, and then usually to fit them in a box, I have to cut the top off. So it's just, you know, it's just maybe this size. So it's the corm and then part of the stem. Just to fit in the box. And then if people want to prune it down differently or however they want to do it, basically what I'm doing, I'm pruning the roots off to make sure that I'm not giving someone a diseased piece of corm. And just so it's not going to get funky in the box. But usually if I ship flat rate, which is what we have here, we have this flat rate box. It's the same price no matter where you send it in the country. It gets there in 2 to 3 days. I just wrap them in paper, put them in the box.
All right.
Sometimes if I happen to have that fruit available, I'll sneak in some extra fruit for them, as just as a thank you for shopping. And people just, you know, I've shipped all over Alaska. People are growing them in their greenhouses and everything.
Nice.
In Alaska? Really... Wow.
Alaska. Yep.
We tend to buy
just out of curiosity, how much do people pay for a pup? How much do you sell them for?
The most common one I sell right now is the dwarf Namois. You guys have Namois bananas?
What is it called?
It's called Namois.
Namois.
Short banana.
They're also called Thai banana sometimes.
Yeah, Thai banana. So that one is the one I grow the most of, and it's a dwarf, so people can fit it in a greenhouse. On my website, I sell those for $25 for one, or you can get two in a box.
$25 for one.
That's amazing.
Wow.
That's amazing.
So if you come to Florida, man, I'm big on myself for a different price. Ask Josh. He came and bought a truckload from me one time. It's a different price if you come and help me dig them, and you know.
It's totally worth it. It's totally worth it. The guys, you know, the people are gonna buy it. They're gonna, you know, reproduce them. It's totally worth it, you know. And you gotta get.
I'll give right back. You'll have your own pup supply in 6 months. So.
You save money. You buy bulk.
We tend to get them in clones. You know, we get the little clones.
Yeah, for micro propagation.
They'll come in a box with like 1,000 little clones, you know, in a 50 by 50 box, you know, and that comes in the mail with little clones, and you can either put them straight into the ground. You put a few beans around them and things to look after it, but people like to, you know, plant them into sacks and into the, you know, we get the clones in. It doesn't.
I just like to plant them straight off the tree.
Yeah,
you know,
I like to plant them straight in the ground.
The small ones. Actually, that's what makes it worth it for me. You know, instead of planting pups, you know, just buy, you know, carry 200 banana plants and 200 in each hand, and just go around.
I do the same. I do the same. I plant them.
Yeah.
Now I have done the experiment where I've planted them straight, and I've planted them that's been replanted, and I will be honest, I would have liked the results have been different, but where I've planted them straight, and then the same seedlings, they were replanted, and you know, they came with better fruit. The ones that had a replant into sacks. I really proved that. I really wanted to prove that, you know, you can plant them straight and it's going to be the same or even better because they're going to adapt. So what happened was they grew nicely, and when I brought the other ones from the greenhouse ones suffered, and I was like, yeah, you see, it was better, but then it recovered and it kind of turned the game around. But in any case, in both those cases, it's not my favorite. We really like, you know, cutting it, and you know the system where we planted it into the ground on that diagonal down, and that's when I found that you get booming, better graded fruit, rather than those clones. either way you plant the clones, I'm not that satisfied with the results planting them from clone, even though financially it's viable because you get them in for £1 each. You know, if you buy them in bulk, get them in for £1 each, and you go. So if you're going to open a big area, it's the most economically viable way to plant them in from little clones. And
yeah,
yes,
and it's faster to plant as well.
Yeah,
you save a lot of you save a lot of labor by planting.
Yeah, a lot of labor. Economically, there's no other way really. I just planted 600 of those, and it had to be clones. I got the pups, but you know, the labor to remove all those pups, that would take financially, that was unviable.
Yeah, and they also come sterilized too. They come in sterile media. They don't have
exactly
issue with disease. So that's one of the risks of sharing pups with other people, is if you're not sterilizing and paying attention, you can really mess somebody else up.
Yeah,
exactly.
Brilliant.
But it's also interesting because you can get lots of varieties, right? Sometimes it's hard to get, you know, different varieties of banana plants, and you know, by buying the clones, you can just, you know, you get like 5, 6 different varieties in a box. So that's also pretty amazing. By the way, do you guys, are you familiar with the PIFA method of propagating bananas?
I'm not sure about the name of it, but I'm familiar with a few different methods. I don't know which one that is.
Oh, this is one that you get the core of the banana, and then you strip it of all the skin, and then you put it in a you know, just kind of plant. You have to cut it. You cut a cross on top of it, and then you plant it, and then it's going to re-sprout. Then it's going to sprout like 10 or 12 seedlings, and then you're going to take them out, and then you plant them in a pot, something like that.
Yeah, I've done that.
Interesting method.
A lot of times, if it's something new to my collection, sometimes I'll do that so that I make sure I have extra material. Or the other thing I'll do is just plant it completely upside down, and then it forces all the sprouts out too.
Oh, cool. And then you're going to take them out and then replant them.
Yeah, it depends. Sometimes the other thing I've done before is take a big corm and just cut it into wedges. As long as there's an eye on the wedge, you can usually guarantee you'll get several takes on that. But it just depends on how critical that one is. If it's common, you know, I don't really worry about it. If it's something new that's rare, that came from Hawaii or something, then I might really fuss over it and try to make it happen.
Yeah, the banana plants are really amazing, right? Because, you know, they give you biomass, you know, they give you pups that you can sell for $25 each. And on top of all, they give you bananas, man. On top of it all.
I look around and I say, why isn't everybody doing this?
Exactly. You know, here in Brazil, you can sell a banana plant, for a pup, for like R$5, which is $1 or something. Not more than that. I'm going to start shipping them to Alaska.
Hey, that's not sustainable.
Yeah. And we wouldn't want to pay the R$5. You know, we wouldn't want to pay the R$5. That's top dollar. And
you guys are doing a different scale too. You know, a lot of the people that shop for me, they want one. You know, that this is the one they're going to have. You know, it's not for an agroforestry planting. So if it was a larger planting, it would be a different price, or they'd buy it. Sure. You know.
Sure. Yeah, like I said, it's well worth it.
And Matt knows I nickel and dime.
Fair is fair, man.
Brilliant. Cool. Yeah, but I mean, you gotta love bananas, man. We can go on talking about bananas forever, because it's you know, go on.
I had one other. We talked about invasive species earlier, and I have an invasive tree on my property, and I'm trying to figure out if I want to use it or not. And I've talked to there's another guy in Brazil named Andrew. I don't know if you guys interact with him. He's got a big, I think it's like 1,000.
Yeah, we know about him. I don't know him personally, but I know about his work. You know, he's a pretty cool guy.
He was telling me, so the plant is the Java plum. Do you know the Java plum? Syzygium comuni or something? He was saying that he's using it as a biomass plant.
Right. It's amazing.
So that goes wild for me. And
What is it? What is it, Felipe?
Probably illegal for me to plant it. But it's a powerhouse bio. I mean, if I go, like I have a forest of it on part of my property, and the leaf matter is like this thick all the time. I actually collect it and use it other places. I've been considering using that one in a similar capacity to how you would use eucalyptus. Maybe it's not quite as fast, but it's another one of those powerhouses, and it does actually have a pretty hard wood. I was curious if you guys have experience with that one, or if that's kind of.
Yeah, I've used it. I've pruned it. I've worked with it, not in my property, but in other properties. It's really good. It resprouts very fast. You know, it produces lots of organic matter. It's fruit. You can eat the fruit. You know, it's edible.
Mm-hmm.
I personally don't like it very much, but it's all right. It's not bad. It's just kind of astringent, right? And it attracts lots of birds, which is always good. You know, it attracts animals. And yeah, you just got to prune it because it's evergreen, right? And it's got a really dense canopy. You know, you can use it as a, for me, it's very clearly like a medium to high layer plant. You can see, I see that because when I see a lone Java plum plant, and this is something, you know, interesting to observe. Usually it has the canopy, because people in the city, at least here, they start, you know, taking any plant, any tree that they plant as an ornamental, they start taking out the bottom branches until they can't reach it anymore. And then it produces kind of this mushroom canopy. Mm-hmm. Then what it does, it starts resprouting really strongly beneath this mushroom canopy, you know, so it's got this really beautiful lush canopy in the shade of its own canopy. And this for me, it's a very strong characteristic of a plant that tolerates shade and that likes being in the, you know, in the medium to high strata. It's not an emergent layer. It can shade a lot. So, you know, as long as you can prune it, you know, maybe twice a year or at least once, it's going to be a great ally. And also I've heard, because it's from the same genre as, how do you call that thing? How do you say it, Janaro? Cravo in English? That condiment? Let me figure out a second.
It's a long time.
Well, it's this flower. They dry the flower. It's from the same genre as this plant. It's a Asian plant that you dry the flower and it smells really great. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Cinnamon. It's got a cinnamon flavor to it almost. A little
Let me figure out
stuff.
I'm gonna find it out now.
Indian spice, right? Indian.
Yeah. There's no English. Oh no, here's clove. Clove.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what clove is?
Clove, like CLOVE?
Yeah, clove.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't think I don't know if people grow it here, but I definitely know.
No, yeah, maybe it won't. But what I'm saying is that the Java plum is from the same genre, from the same genus, right? It's not genre. Genre is music, right? It's from the same genus, which is Syzygium. And I've heard that if you dry the flowers of the Java plum, they've got a similar smell. It's not as strong as the clove, but it's so you can actually use it for you know. I've never tried it, but you could try it out. So it's got also that use. But yeah, totally go for it, man. You can definitely plant it.
I get requests for the fruit. I've talked about it a couple times, and I get people, oh my goodness, can you send me the fruit? And all my fruit's so far up in the air that I could never, you know, harvest it. But I was thinking if I had a maintained area, maybe it would be something I could harvest and sell the fruit.
Exactly.
People are asking for it, you know. Where else are you gonna find it?
You gotta give them what they ask. You gotta give them what they ask.
They do vary a lot. I know a lot of them are really astringent, and you really can't even eat them until they're actually just falling off the branch into your hand. Otherwise, they'll pucker your mouth up.
Exactly. I remember I ate here in Brazil. I've never found some really good one, but in Africa, I tasted some big, really sweet Java plums. You know,
Mhm.
those were good, but here in Brazil, they never tasted so good. Another plant that I saw in somewhere in, I don't know if it was in the property that you're working now, but I saw in one of your videos, you were taking them all down, which is the Brazilian pepper.
Yeah.
Right? The Brazilian pepper is also an amazing, I really love it because it's, you know, it's prune friendly. The seeds are edible as well. You know, we use them here. We call it pink pepper around here. And it's also an amazing plant. I really love to use it. You know, I plant it around and I prune it and it resprouts beautifully. It's also a pretty cool plant for.
Yeah, here it's
organic matter.
it all goes back to the management. It's not managed here, and it will completely take over an entire neighborhood. You know, and people spend a lot of money getting rid of that stuff.
Really?
A lot.
They should be harvesting it.
It grows in the water too. So like my house, I have mangroves along the side of my house because there's a canal here, and it grows right with the mangroves, and it grows up it grows in the dry, and it grows wherever it wants.
Exactly.
You know?
That's it.
So what I've noticed is as long as you're cutting it before the seeds are set, you don't have any issues with it. I've used it for mulch quite a lot, but man, it is a powerful plant. And if you plant that on purpose, you will get in trouble. They don't mess around with that.
Can you go arrested?
I don't know. You'll probably get fined, most likely. It was originally put here as an ornamental plant because it does have the beautiful berries and you can hedge it and you can do different things, but it's like class. I don't know what the class system is, invasive list, but it's like at the highest one with that one and Melaleuca and Australian pine. You guys know the Casuarina?
Yeah, Casuarina. We use Casuarina in a job in Portugal.
Oh man,
I love it.
Well, at least you can still plant eucalyptus, man.
Yeah, and the only reason we can get them and plant them right now is because they use them for windbreaks around the citrus groves here. So that's the only reason that's the reason I use the variety that I mentioned earlier. There's another whole pulp industry for eucalyptus. I don't know what the species they use for that is, but you'll see groves of that like way out in the country.
For paper.
For mulch, they actually use it for making bag mulch for landscaping. So it's a sustainable alternative to like cypress, or we have other trees that had been traditionally, you know, when they're land clearing, they grind it all down and they put it in bags so that you can put it out in your landscape around your house. And so now they have the eucalyptus grown for that purpose. So it's actually its own industry rather than, you know, clearing it out of, you know, natural forests.
Yeah, it's a shame that they're probably not giving it back to where it's been planted, so it probably will be the area where they're planting it, but that's commercial for you. Out here, it's illegal for me to plant the Mexican sunflowers, and I'm planting it in the valley right next to like prohibited area. National park. But I feel great about it because I know I'm doing the best, because if it wasn't him, it's going to be next invasive worst things, and I feel great about doing it. And I really want them people to come here and what are they going to say? You know, I planted 5,000 trees, you know, in consortium with the Mexican sunflower. So had I not been here interacting in the way that I am, you know, there would be fires and other things way worse. So, you know, I really can't say I'm looking forward to the day they come find me, but like, I really want to see.
Yeah, I call that eco-terrorism.
Eco-terrorism, yeah.
Yeah, we have a term guerrilla gardening too, where you go into like a local park and you start putting fruit trees in the ground, or there's a couple coconuts that's at the convention center near me that I planted that they didn't notice, and they're like right in the landscape, and I guess they just assumed it was someone had put it in there, and they're still growing. They're like 3 years old.
Nice.
Oh, by the way, speaking of mulch and bananas, I love that tool, man, that you're using to cut the bananas.
Right?
That's really cool. I want one of those. And also the little tool for unracking the bananas. You know,
Yeah, I'm having I'm gonna have them made, and I'm gonna have them on my website eventually. Actually, my client right now that we're gonna put in his windbreak on Monday. His company is a custom stainless steel fabrication company, and I brought my prototype. You know, I call it the banana hander, and I brought it to him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we can make those. We can make that with our scrap." So he's gonna make a whole bunch for me, and I'm gonna put it on the website and see if it sells. I think it could be a good, supplemental income to help out the farm. And
Definitely.
I think it's a great tool. And the other one, the broad blade you mentioned, I'm making a version of it that's not all one piece, so you can take the handles out, and it'll be easier for me to put it in a box and ship it around.
Cool.
Put your handles into it. And it would be easy to make. If you have anyone local that fabricates, it's not a complicated device to make. It's just a
it's very. It's a piece of iron with two handles. You probably
it's really simple.
Yeah, that's great. The banana, because it's quite a bit of a nuisance, to have to take the hands off the banana, with a knife, and you always mess up the hand. It breaks in two. Sometimes the skin comes out if you and having that tool. Have you seen Gennaro?
Yeah, it's very neat. Very neat.
Yeah.
Seen it.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to find someone who can produce it for me here.
In Australia, actually, I have a friend of mine locally. He used to work on commercial groves in Australia when he used to travel when he was younger, and he's the one that told me about it. And then he showed me a YouTube video where they actually compete, like the commercial banana guys in Australia actually compete, and they have that tool, and they compete like how fastly they can sort the bananas and grade the sizes and get them in the right thing to put them in the box. And that's like Australians are competitive about everything. So of course they found a way to compete on harvesting their bananas.
Banana packaging.
The commercial grows.
Cool. Yeah, we should have competition to who splits the trunks faster as well.
Yeah, when I posted that, I posted there's like a banana group on Facebook, and I had someone say, "Yeah, that's what we have a machete for," and it's like, yeah, of course you do. You go do 10 of them, and I'll do 10, and we'll see.
Exactly.
I won't even have to bend over, and you'll be over there. And you guys are probably better at it than anybody, but for me, like splitting it with a machete, that's a lot of work. That's not easy.
It is.
Especially getting it the right size if you want it to be consistent and use it. And
exactly, that's also something else that helps, and you can actually already have the blade on the right size, right? Because then you can measure it. I don't know if you did that.
Mm-hmm.
To use the blade as your measure, So the blade is already the size of the trunk that you're gonna use, so it's really good.
Yeah. It's all about discipline, because it's so easy to bring down the fruit and leave that trunk there, to a later date, and that's all attracting, bugs and things like that. So it really is
when you
discipline.
Have
this
the
week,
proper tools, it's easier. You're gonna do it. If you have the proper tools, it's easier for you to do it. And it's such a cheap tool to make. I mean, you said it, they make it from the scratch. You can just, make 5 of them and just leave them around the field. So you don't have to worry about, I have to go and grab. No, it's already here. Once it goes bad, if you make it from stainless steel, it can stay out in the rain. It's going to last a long time. It's even dangerous, because when we do it with machetes, we're holding the bottom of the trunk here, and then we're going to strike it here. You have to pull your hand out without letting the trunk fall so that you can hit the machete. People can lose their fingers doing that. So yeah, it's great. And also we need another tool for actually taking the trunk off, because I don't know if you guys have that practice or if you've seen us do it, but we do like a cup, right? We do like this concave shape when we take out so we need the stump in a concave shape, and that's also dangerous when you do it with a machete. I've seen many people who've cut their fingers, because sometimes you're gonna stick the machete in, sometimes it's not going to go in properly. Your hand slides on the machete, and then you cut your hand. So, you know, having a proper tool that makes it easier to produce that concave shape, maybe like some sort of a sickle.
That'll be the next tool I'll develop. You gave me the idea.
Nice.
Yeah, do that. I think a crooked sickle would work. You know, a sickle with a bend or something like that. I think that would be the ideal, because then it's perfect. You know, if you have this tool and the banana splitter, then you're good to go.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Josh was going to get a nice cold beer for us.
My phone is about to die.
Oh.
So I had to run and grab a charger.
All right. I think we can wrap it up. It's been really nice chatting to you guys. Thanks very much. Really.
Yeah. We went for almost 2 hours, an hour and a half. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Like I said, you know, this is a way. Also, obviously, we're launching our Patreon account. But it's always coming back to that give, and we wanted to do something, you know, extra, something nice to our followers, to your guys' followers, and just extra, you know, something extra nice. We're bringing more people in, and it's really all a give process, you know. And we're launching the Patreon account now. You know, it's not like a media stunt. You know, it's not like trying a media stunt here, getting more people involved. It really is a way we can give. And, you know, people that do contribute, you know, going to be helping us bring more content. You know, we want to invest in microphones, and some of our audio has been really crap. You know, we've been doing this for 2 years. So I think it's a really nice series that we're putting together. You guys have been great addition. Really, really grateful for that. We admire all your work there. Serious. And, you know, we appreciate the following, and, you know, we're happy to learn as well from what you guys are doing there.
Yeah, for me, it's really a great opportunity to be, you know, interacting with you guys who are in other parts of the world, because, you know, we come from Ernest's school, right? The Syntropic Farming School, and it's good to talk about people who come from other perspectives as well, right? I think we all have a lot to share and to learn together, because it's, you know, although we're huge fans of Ernest's works and all that he brought to us, you know, he really brought us into agroforestry, and we completely adopt the syntropic farming principles. It's still always good to be talking, you know, with people from different perspectives, you know, who came from different backgrounds. We know that there's lots of other people doing agroforestry around the world, and we're doing, you know, great work, and we're always eager, you know, to be exchanging experiences. So it's been really, really good to be able to follow you and to have this chat. I really think we should do this more often. You know, we should you know, every now and then let's schedule a chat and then put it on YouTube, because I think people, you know, the people who are looking for content on the internet, it's really of great value to them. It's really of great value to them. You know, this sort of chat, you know, we're having, you know, spontaneous talk about this topic, and, you know, there's so much information that they can extract from this. You know, we talked about many different plants that can be used, how to use them, how to chop down a banana, how to sell bananas to Alaska. So it's all very helpful, I think. So yeah, just you know, big thanks to you both for joining us, for you know, being available to participate in this with us, and so thanks for joining us.
Thank you guys. It's been a pleasure, and I hope you guys do take off. You guys really deserve it. You guys are putting out a lot of really good stuff, and I don't know why you don't have 10 times as many followers as you do on Instagram or on YouTube. I don't know if it's because you're from Brazil and the algorithms go different ways or something, but you guys should have a lot more support, and hopefully it'll start to jump up for you, because you guys are really doing a lot of good stuff.
Cool.
slowly.
Yeah,
it's gonna grow naturally.
Thank you guys a bunch. It was really cool. If you guys ever start making shirts that say "Keep It Pruned" with the Agroforestry Academy logo on it, I want like
That's a good
100 of
one.
them.
We're gonna do
Yeah,
that. We're gonna do. We need to do some merchandising. Yeah, we're gonna start doing that soon. You know, we did the
Couple of
caps.
caps.
Did 4. We did 4 caps, and we already lost 2 of them. And we did the shirt as well. But we need a better manufacturer, because the person who did it, show them your logo, Gennaro. Gennaro's logo is completely
It's a little bit bent there.
centered.
But I gotta bend my head. If I bend my head, then no one knows.
Yeah. But we want to do useful merchandising, you know, so, you know, good caps, things that people can use in the field, you know, just, we don't want to do like random stuff. But the Keep It Pruned is definitely the Keep It Pruned shirt is definitely important, an important one. We're gonna do that.
Yeah, keep it pruned.
Keep it pruned, exactly.
Nice one, Josh.
I was gonna say something else, but I forgot. So, you know, this was perfect timing because my coffee, I just ran out of coffee, so this is the last sip.
Well, yeah, I'll say I'm totally open to doing this again, especially if we get good feedback from the comment section. So whoever is watching this, you know, comment down below if you guys are into it. And if you have questions that we can maybe bring up in another video, be happy to do that.
Exactly.
Brilliant. Any suggestions?
All right, cool. All right, guys. So I'll catch you all later.